Are y'all ready? Everybody ready? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Crystal, are you ready? Sandra, are you ready? Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Leon Valley City Council meeting. So glad so many of you could join us this evening. Today is Tuesday, January 7th, 2020. Happy New Year. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday, and it's so good to see you. And welcome to those citizens, guests, and staff, as well as those watching online. We do have a quorum. All council members are present with the exception of Mayor Pro Tem Alcacer, who's out of town and is excused. So if I could please ask Councilor Holdy, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening, and then we'll begin. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It's nice to have. I'll try to round robin it. Okay. Okay. Many of you that are here this evening know the guidelines about silencing your cell phone and treating each other with respect and et cetera, et cetera. And but there's a main change beginning this meeting, and that is when we have the presentation by staff, the citizens will ask questions next, and then it will come to the council. So that was the change in the protocol last month, and that would be effective this first meeting. So it's a little different, so please bear with me and hope that we can get it right, because it's kind of hard to change what you're used to doing, but we'll do the best that we can. So thank you all very much for that patience, because we do want to hear from you. We do want your input. All right. Presentation, we have 3 of them this evening, and the first one is the Economic Prosperity in Leon Valley, presented by Business Relations Director William Cox. And Mr. Cox, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Mayor, can I interrupt to tell the council one thing about Mr. Cox?
Okay,
that he will not share with you, I know.
Okay.
And I want the council and the citizens to know this. He came to Leon Valley, put himself on a very healthy, restricted regimen and diet, and decided that he was going to run 100 miles for children with cancer. He did that over the Christmas holidays and was successful. And so I want to thank Mr. Bradshaw, not only for representing Leon Valley as a Mr. Bradshaw, yeah. Mr. Cox, sorry, Mr. Cox for representing Leon Valley as the servant leader that he is, but also just congratulate him. 100 miles is a long way, and he trained for a long time and really worked on his diet to get things right. So I just want to congratulate him, and it was for a very worthy cause.
And I'm assuming that was all in one day?
No, it took me 38 hours.
Took you 38 hours. Okay, so a day and a half. Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I was wondering about that. Okay. Very good.
So, Mayor and Council, thank you. We have kind of a hodgepodge presentation here of, and I was trying to think of what we're going to actually label this, and I kind of look at it, and it's the prosperity, because, what I look at from the business relations side is just that we got so much really great things that we have going for us here in Leon Valley, and I want to share that. So we're going to kind of bounce around, and I'll try to make those transitions as easy as possible. But we'll start with the background of this presentation, which is a 2019 business audit has been completed, and that's where we've started building these relationships with the business owners, that we're actually talking to them, working with them, with the attention to working on our CO process to make sure that every business has a CO, that it's displayed, it's the correct one with the right information. And we can go on and on. We have the business audit, but what it was that introduction to the relationships with these businesses. We're also starting to, this year's track trends at the city, county, and state level, and that's some of the stuff we're going to be looking at here in this presentation. And then we started correlating the associations between audit and the audit. And the audits being us going out there and physically talking with the business, make sure the CO, the tax permit, and then sometimes how that relates to the complaints that come in, because there is some direct correlations there. And again, we'll see that here shortly. I'm sorry, this clicker is wants to go. There we go. So at the state level, there's lots of talk of this impending recession, and I really wanted to kind of talk about the preparation the state has. I've gone through and looked at multiple credible studies that are done at the state level. I like this one. It actually was published by the Dallas Business Journal, which I also watch the San Antonio Business Journal and the sister companies. But it went through and looked at 11 different demographics of what states are going to be most successful to get through a recession. And in all of the surveys that I looked at, or not surveys, but the data, Texas always came out number one, and not kind of a just marginal number one. It was always a very successful number one. So this one here, they kind of looked at the number, and this is what they kind of looked at, the fiscal health and stabilization. The percentage you see is how much weight that, in the rubric they had and what it kind of credible down. Then we come down all the way to the bottom where we look at, average credit card debt, and then how we survived the 2008 recession. So you kind of take a look at those, and that's how they came up with a score. They looked at the top 25 states, and Texas came out number one. And when we say this, so here's the top 15. I just kind of did a little screenshot so we could see it. What's important is if you look at the score there that we received in Texas, we got a 35.375. The difference between us and the second place is about 1.5%. And the difference between number 2 and number 8 is about 1.3. So we're leaps and bounds above other states prepared for a recession. So, the economic diversity, the credit card debt, we can go on and on. Look at those charts that we had before. Just being ready for that, and I think it's going to work in our favor if that does indeed happen. So, and here's one of our transitions. So we look at how and why we're going to be successful. We look at the small businesses. We got 2 more studies that were done, and one of them is the simplest and the toughest cities to start a business. So on the left-hand side, it was the top 25 in the state of Texas, or I'm sorry, in the U.S. simplest to open up a business. So they looked at quite a few parameters, but the primary ones they looked at was the number of administrative steps, the cost, and the time it took to get your CO. Jackson, Mississippi came in number 1 with 4 administrative steps, depending on the type of business, a cost of $50, and you could have your CO in 1 day. So then they had a list of the 25 worst, and that's on the right-hand side, and that was Little Rock, Arkansas. 10 administrative steps, cost of $149, and it took a minimum of 63 days before you could get your CO. That's important to look at the time, because when I was reading through these studies, businesses were almost not as concerned with the cost as it was that they wanted to get into their business, start operating. When they start looking at those times, that was what was pushing them away. If you look at 63 days, or a couple of months minimum, if you're already paying 2 months of tenant space. Mm-hmm. So it takes a while to recoup that, and it becomes that whole not business friendly. So we look at here the ease of doing business, kind of looking at the time here. You see where the kind of the median is going to be. If you kind of come right in that middle spot, it seems like that sweet spot's about 12 days. And we'll fast forward and look at what Leon Valley is doing. So we have 5 administrative steps depending on the type of business. And when we say type of business, if you have a food license requirement, so that's another inspection that, because you're a restaurant versus a retail clothing store that wouldn't require that. Or if you're wanting to sell alcohol, well, there's an administrative step for that. So, we can kind of have those, and that's included in the other data as well. Our cost was $125, and our average time is 5 to 7 days to actually obtain a CO. On the left-hand side, this is what the Planning and Zoning Department does leaps and bounds above all the other ones that I was looking at. First things they have is they receive a comprehensive CO package. It's a folder, and it has a step-by-step what you need to do to actually obtain it. If they'll go through and read that, it's very clear, very informative, and they have all the tools that they need there with them. The staff explains the entire process to the applicant. The Planning and Zoning accepts receipt of sales tax certificate. I noticed a lot of the other cities, you actually have to receive that from the state before they'll issue the CO, whereas the Planning and Zoning Department here, if you can show us a receipt that you've actually gone through it, and it's proper entities and in proper address, that will allow you to start the CO process so that you're not one agency is not waiting on another agency. We provide on-site visits when necessary. It's not uncommon for us to do friendly inspections. We'll just come out and just have a conversation and kind of tell you what we're going to be looking for and give you kind of a heads up on what needs to be done. We offer bilingual services. There's no additional cost for notary services. The planning and zoning consults with other departments when it's appropriate. They'll actually work with the fire department if you need to help to get their fire inspection. Actually working with me to get out there to do the zoning inspection. Again, you don't always see that in some of these larger cities or where it's kind of segregated, where they put it on you to go, you've got to reach out, go find the fire department, figure out what it is, what you need to do. Whereas here, the department consults. The staff serves as a liaison to CPS. And when needed, they communicate with the landlords on behalf of the applicant, which is very advantageous to them when you get these holding companies that it's hard to contact, even as them being a tenant, when we have to get through some CO processes that we can actually open. We have those channels of communication that help the businesses.
Mr. Cox, I just had a question on that. Did you compare our city to any other suburban cities on how we did in that same slide before,
Yes.
and the city of San Antonio, and where did we fare?
So, yeah, we need to absolutely look at that. So what I'm doing right now is just taking that 35,000-foot view of kind of what it looks like and trying to figure out where those problems are. And that's when we looked at it. When I was reading these studies, when the surveys were done, the businesses' biggest complaints were time. So that's what we need to kind of look at. And I was kind of capturing just big data, kind of take a look at it. But as we start drilling this down, that's exactly, I want to look at cities that are like Leon Valley. You know, I can't compare us to
So you
Houston,
didn't compare
Texas,
us to like Balcones Heights or
on
Chavano?
the next one, we'll kind of
Okay,
keep drilling
gotcha.
it down and keep drilling
Okay,
down and
thank
see
you.
where it is that we need to be. I just want to kind of give us a comparison
Sure.
of where we are with some of those.
Okay, thank you.
Now, so the next one here we're shifting is, this is the largest increases in median home sales value for 2019. And it was done by zip codes. So don't let that little arrow down. That's just the graphic that was used, kind of throw you off. And we understand that in that zip code, we have homes outside of Leon Valley. But that's just how this particular study was done. And this is a Bexar County, well, it was the top 26 San Antonio, New Braunfels zip codes with values above the average sales price. So the average sales price was 4%, is what the average home median increased over 2019. So they made that the bottom side, and then they took the 26 above that. So we're kind of talking about the best of the best. Leon Valley was 18th in that, and we had a increase in our median home value of 7%. Again, this is going to be important here later when we talk about the bringing in the businesses and bringing in the people when the businesses are following the workforce instead of the other way. So we look at comfort of place. So as we build a city, we want building a city people want to live in and the business will follow. So kind of why do people want to live in Leon Valley? It's not always what exactly is in Leon Valley. We have to look at the regional area. We have higher education with UTSA. We have the medical center, affordable housing, transportation with VIA, the international airport, and parks. So 50 years ago, people followed the jobs. That's why they came into the city, and that's how this country came to grow, to have suburban areas. So, they didn't want to live in the city, so they started pulling out a little bit. But now we've seen this trend where the businesses are having to go and find where the workforce is. So now they're following the people. Well, the people are looking for that comfort of place. Again, places like Leon Valley, where we have all this stuff right at, at our fingertips, where we have the medical center, we have the universities, we have, roads, the amenities, international airport, and the parks. So families are in search of the desirable places to live, work, and play. And let's say the businesses are located in communities where they can find the workforce, as I said. So our mission and vision for 2020 is a high-functioning relationships. So when I speak of high-functioning relationships, I like to use an analogy of how successful a relationship would be with your significant other if you only talk to them once a year. And then more so on the other side, when we look at the compliance, how successful or healthy would that relationship be if, when I do talk to you, I'm just telling you what you did wrong. And that's what a lot of cities are, they're doing. They see them one time, I like to audit. So you came in here, we spent just a minute or two to kind of check your CO, and we walk away. That's the only relationship we have. That's not a relationship. That's what we want to do, is start making that a high-functioning relationship. And when we look at the compliance stuff, is, if the only time you see me or I talk to you is when I'm coming here to tell you what you're doing wrong, again, we've fractured that relationship. So to fix that, we're going to start doing business walks, and that's where I'm going to go out and actually just walk a complex and just talk to those, not there for any other motive, but just tell me, how's things going? Is there anything we could do better? What do you like about this space the most? What would you change if you could? And just start capturing some of that information. As you're going to see at the end of this presentation, we have a business of the quarter. We're going to highlight one of our local businesses. I'm working with the city manager and Maribel to publish the newly issued COs. That's been going on in the city manager's report before. We're actually going to push it on the e-news. More importantly, is there's no sacred cows here. Is that the small mom and pop shop, if you got a cell phone repair shop and you're the only one that owns it, the only one working there, you get the same treatment as if you got 50 employees and 100,000 square foot. Again, we're trying to make sure that we're diverse and equitable in all our businesses. And then we're going to also start looking at annual surveys. And we can do this with the CO process or just kind of, just reaching out. We have things set up in the budget to allow us to do this. Some concepts, and these are things that we've, these are ideas that I've gone to training and we're talking to other cities of what's successful. We're not looking for things that, while it may sound great, they're not successful. I'm looking at things that have actually worked for other cities, and some of those are business appreciation dinner, after-hours focus groups, shop local initiative. Now, that's something we definitely are going to be pushing through, and a local resource guide. And I really enjoy this quote from Maslow here, is if the only tool you have is a hammer, you will treat everything as a nail. And this is that we need all the tools we can in that toolbox, and that includes these appreciation deals. Let them know that we appreciate you being here in Leon Valley. These businesses are not always motivated by tax abatements and some creative incentive programs for them. They just want to be respected and appreciated to be in the community that they've chosen. So again, we're adding to our toolbox. So not going to go through it extensively, but in your packet, you're going to see that we have some just almost raw data. The first one we have is a regional snapshot of the Alamo region. And I'll just kind of highlight a few things that we see on that. Talking about the population growth of the region. So there's 19 regions that the state of Texas is divided up. All this data comes from the state comptroller. Unfortunately, it's a couple years old. They kind of stay in lag that time, but there's these trends. So we look at it over 20 years. The trends they're consistent throughout. So our population growth is, in this region, 14.2, whereas in the states, 12.6, and at the U.S. level, only 5.5. So again, you look at the U.S., we almost triple it for the state, and we're still 20% higher at the Alamo region here. It actually has information on the concentrated industries here in this region, which if you kind of look at some of those, like trapping, I just wouldn't have thought that, and leather goods and stuff. But this comes from a state comptroller who knows what businesses are actually here. Employment for this region, we're at 20% for the Alamo region, whereas the state of Texas is 17.4, and for the U.S. is 16.3. And wages are higher in the Alamo region at 7.3%, where Texas is 5.6 and the U.S. is 5.4. Behind that, you're going to see the profile for Leon Valley, and I want to have our council, mayor and council, the tools to kind of look at and know who we are and what we're doing. So this is the best information that's published right now on just what the demographics. It's a lot of raw data, but just knowing, it's not just as simple as, the male to female, but this talks about median incomes, their jobs, their occupation, and then more specifically is looking at clusters. So if you kind of go to the sheets behind that, we have two different sheets. One of them is the industry detail, which is not rocket science to realize that in this general area, it is going to be local health services. That's the predominant cluster. But what was surprising to me was right behind that is the occupation cluster, and that was food preparation and service. So these are all the restaurants that we eat out. That becomes important for economic development because we know that this is what what's the area's actually looking for. This is where they're working. They're looking for these restaurants where they eat, or the grocery stores, and we know we have lots of those in that area. So nothing in there is out of the ordinary, but it is some really good information and leaning towards what we need to do. Where are we focusing in? If we don't have a cluster of an occupation, there's no reason for us to pursue either those businesses or educating the public on what those jobs are, unless it is something we need to bring in. And we're going to talk about NAPHIDE for that very reason. So that's what we were just talking about. The information came from Stats America and the Texas Comptroller. And let's see, I got one more here. And the metrics for, it's Making It Count is a great website that I've been using, and it's metrics for high-performing economic development EDOs. All right, with that, we're moving on to our first featured business of the quarter. It's going to be NAPHIDE Manufacturing, which has just recently located to 6234, I believe, Bandera, which was the old Performance HQ right beside the aquarium. A little bit of background on them. They've been family-owned for 171 years. There's not too many businesses you can find that's been around before the Civil War. 22 sites extending from coast to coast with 3 Texas locations. NAPHIDE has a history of planting deep roots in each of their communities. They're a leader in commercial vehicle solutions, and their name is on more vehicles than any other manufacturer. NAPHIDE works with both end users on OEM dealer, Ford, GM, Dodge, and Toyota are just some of the ones that they work with. At their peak, the Leon Valley location will employ 15 to 20 people. And the projected revenue is $8 to $10 million per year. Fundamental values for them include family, patriotism, company pride, and never settle attitude. Some of the first conversations we had lots of conversations as they were coming into the city, but as they start rehabbing that location, one of the things they said is that, we're American. We've been here. We're not going anywhere. We plant our roots. We want a flagpole. And so you'll see, they said, we want people when they come in, the gateway of the city, we want to see that, see the American flag flying. So we come over and we see some, you see the water tower, you see that flag, and it's just really, we're starting that small shift of changing what it looks like when you enter Leon Valley so that we kind of impregnate our mind of what that looks like when you enter. And I think that's important for us. All right, we got a small video here. Hopefully, has it got volume to it? Yeah, there's volume. Right there. Oh, gosh. It played on the other ones. Oh, no. Yeah, because I even played it earlier. Say it again?
Enable connection.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate. I really wanted you to see this. Can we just put it back? Yes, it is. Okay. All right. So, anyways, with that, we wanted to spend a little bit of time just to. What do we got here? Hey, there it is.
Yay.
If you follow our company, you kind of follow the history of transportation in America. We've kind of gone where the new ways of transportation are. Originally, my great-great-grandfather just made wheels, did not make complete wagons, and then evolved into a complete wagon shop. My great-grandfather took it to, I guess to the next logical step, but more of a small manufacturing facility. And then my grandfather, he ran into the Depression. And it's amazing how he just kept going. His mission was, frankly, just to survive. And then my dad came on board in 1938. And my dad was a very innovative person, really a self-taught engineer. He actually had a degree in economics. In the 50s into the 60s, we kind of expanded nationally. At that point in time, farm bodies were our main product. It's about 2/3 of our business. And at the time, farming was really booming into the 70s. My dad wanted to diversify, so he picked service bodies, which was a wonderful move.
Thanks to that foresight, along with 6 generations of family leadership, the NAPHIDE Manufacturing Company started down the path to become the leading manufacturer of work-ready vehicle solutions in North America. In fact, More work trucks on the road today have Knapheide on them than any other brand. It's a testament to our commitment, to our customers, to continuous improvement, to collaboration, and to never settling for second best.
It's very important to us that we do what we need to do for our customers, that we support them, that this is beneficial to the people that work here, that it makes their lives better. It's more opportunity, security for them and their families. And if you do that, I think that the company will do great.
So as I said earlier, businesses are not always looking for complex tax abatements or incentives. They're just wanting to be valued in the community that they reside. So in behalf of the staff and the City Council, we welcome Knapheide Manufacturing Company to Leon Valley. Unfortunately, they weren't able to be here tonight, but we've had a great relationship with them. I'm guessing you've seen the property. It's been rehabbed. They're just doing everything to be a part of this community and making it easy for us and easy for them to be here.
Wonderful.
And that concludes our presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. So, Habib, would I get the citizens to ask questions first after a presentation, since we changed the rules?
Yes,
I just wanted to verify that with you. Okay, so are there any questions from any of our guests or citizens in the chambers this evening on this presentation that Mr. Cox just gave on the business temperature in Leon Valley? Yes, Ms. Sawyer, come on up. And if you'll state your name and just where you live, because we are recording the meeting. Thank you. You don't need to give your address, just like Forest Oaks or Grass Valley.
Ann Sawyer in, I believe it's Canterfield.
Yeah. I call it Forest Oaks Estates, but that's okay.
Forest Oaks Estates.
There you go.
What the mayor says. So I'm really excited about learning about this. So when are they going to be moving in here, and then what kind of jobs are they going to be?
So they've already moved in. And one of the reasons that they were...
Speaker.
So one of the things that attracted them to Leon Valley was the workforce that they were able to get, that stuff like VIA that could bring them to and from work, because it's general labor. But they have a lot of skilled labor as well. At their peak, they're going to be 15 to 20 people. Right now, they have a skeleton crew. They have got their CO application approved for 2 of the buildings. They're still trying to work on one, which is a paint booth, and they're just, there's some construction that takes that. So they're actually functioning successfully right now, but they're just ramping up.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ann, for that question. Any other questions or comments? Oh, Rita.
So when they're at full capacity, as in, when they get all the people
Can you
employed.
state what the question was for the
sure.
record?
So she's asking what I meant by when they're at their peak. So they have secured contracts, and I wish they were really here to confirm this, but I do believe they have one here with Toyota. And that's on the economic development side. I can't bring in Toyota to start manufacturing here in Leon Valley. We don't have the space or the capabilities to it. But those ancillary businesses, this is one of them, where they're going to bring them straight from the Toyota plant, outfit them with these boxes, or these, I can't remember what they're called, but essentially the tail end of this, and then to sell them to the public. So once they get those contracts and those avenues going, that's what they'll be at peak.
Okay, good question. All right. If there aren't any other questions from the citizens and guests in our chambers, any questions from the council for Mr. Cox? Yes, Councilor.
I don't have any
Charles.
questions. I just have a comment. Your report was very thorough. I liked all the demographics and all the comparisons. So I appreciate the time you spent putting that together.
You're welcome. And I do appreciate the feedback about, Mayor, about drilling down. And that's what we want to do, just kind of start, as we do, is just start filtering it to get it specific to Leon Valley. Because what may work in another city, even similar to us, may not work for us. And we have to find that out. And that's where, when I talked about looking at the ease of the process, consistently through all that, business owners had the biggest complaint about how long it took. There was no complaints about the cost. And most of them stayed within a range, but again, and that's something we look at, so I'm very happy that, our planning and zoning department does everything they can, and we, generally, if everything goes right, without any obstacles, it's 5 to 7 days.
Right. Well, something I was glad that you brought up, and that was about the recession, because I'd gone to the National League of Cities and went to that seminar, and they said we have a 25% chance this upcoming year to possibly go into a recession. But I did not know that Texas is well positioned at number one.
Consistently throughout
Yes,
multiple
exactly.
studies.
So it probably, if we did get a recession, we would have a very minimal impact on our
Right. And we were all here for
state.
2008, and
Yeah.
we saw the news of how big this was. But when we walked out our doors and we went to HEB, and I don't feel like we felt what that was really like, what we
right.
saw on TV. And it's because, we live in the great state of Texas that's really prepared us for this. And then, even at we're getting at a local level where, our leadership of Leon Valley takes that a step further.
Okay, very good. Yes, Councilor Rodriguez.
Mr. Cox, so you said the max is going to be 20 employees. Is there going to be any room for any type of expansion?
So there is some property behind them. So, they have a lease-to-own contract with the property, and that's very common for a business like this to do. There's some property behind them. I don't know, they're not sure what their long-term projections are, but they do have some area that they could expand back there. For sure, but I don't know what it is that they might be looking at it. I know they were interested, and we talked about it. But I don't know what, if that would be, in a couple years, or maybe, in a 10-year plan. But we'll start working on it. We wanted to welcome here. We wanted to get them into our city, knowing that, again, a business has been around for 171 years. They're not here coming in with, luggage. They're here to stay. And I've looked at what they've done with other cities, how much they give back. So you see their name plastered. And he said that he was telling me a funny story about that while they don't make barbecue pits, there's barbecue pits all over this country with their name on it, because those guys, they love getting together. And so you have an auction, and, hey, what do you have? They'll take all their spare parts and they'll make a barbecue pit and donate it to, to whatever the function may be. So it's interesting how many, and it's just one of many stories where he talked about, and then just the patriotism. He talks about, it's not just us flying a flagpole with it. You said, we have a policy. We get a new flag every 4 months. It comes down and gets exchanged. We'll never see it tattered, weathered, so he has, where they get one. And that's company policy. It comes in, I think he said, every 4 months.
Okay, very good. Yes, Councilor Bradshaw and then Councilor Hody.
Yeah, Mr. Cox, sorry, I apologize. I'm losing my voice a little bit. But appreciate the presentation and appreciate, again, you doing that run for the children with cancer, was it?
Yes, pediatric cancer.
Yeah, that's amazing. And one of the questions I think you already answered was for, I was going to ask, what are they building here? And I think you said it's the toolboxes, the trucks.
Correct.
This is what they're going to manufacture.
So when you call out a plumber or electrician, they generally have a commercial bed on a standard type truck. Well, it may be a 3/4 ton or 1 ton. They make those beds, and they obviously have some staple. You can out of a catalog type order those, and then they actually make the custom ones. You'll see the ones with you'll see as much as a crane, or where they have the welder and stuff like that. That's what they do.
That's what they're going to do here.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
They're actually not even manufacturing them here. They'll actually bring them in, and they're just basically, they're selling those and then bolting them to the vehicle.
Gotcha. Like
But they're actually being
installation.
manufactured at another location.
Okay. So that was one question, and the other one was, do they know how to build a soapbox derby car?
Right. We were already talking about that, because we had talks with them during that time, and we were wishing we could have got them in here, but I'm sure they'd be happy to be a part of that.
All right, very good. Yes, Councilor Hody.
All I have to say is fantastic. That's not all I have to say, but I like what I hear, and your ideas, or y'all's, the city's, the staff's ideas sound very pro-business, which I like, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Councilman.
Okay, thank you. And when did they move in?
Let's see. So it's been a transition, but it's probably been November. that
Okay.
They started
Right.
occupying.
Right. And they must be a quiet business, because I haven't gotten any complaints from the neighbors behind, and we had gotten complaints from the prior.
I can't stress enough.
So
that's
good.
They come to us and say, we're wanting to do this. What is the best process? I mean, they really wanting to be a part of this community, be a successful part of this community, and they come to the city anytime they got anything going on, and been a pleasure to work with.
That's great. Well, thank you for your presentation. Very educational, and we look forward to the next business. And did you say it's every quarter we're going to?
We're going to do a business of the quarter.
Okay, very good.
So we're going to highlight, that maybe do through e-news, but we want to start promoting those new COs that are coming out. That's being done on
Excellent.
e-news and continue with the city manager's report.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. Take care. All right, moving then to presentation number 2.2, Leon Valley FirstNet presentation. We have our Leon Valley Police Department Assistant Police Chief Ruben Saucedo. Mr. Saucedo, Chief Saucedo, I saw him someplace. Yeah, and now I don't see him.
I can get started on it since he's not here.
Okay.
A few months back, late last year, or mid-year, Chief Saucedo went to a conference, the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference, and they have vendor shows there, and they met and discussed one of the latest and greatest things that have come out to meet the requirements of the committee that met after 9/11 was having a communication platform that was specifically for law enforcement. So Chief Saucedo brought this back to me, explained what it was. I brought it in front of council. Council voted to go ahead and because it's a little bit more expensive, but council voted to go ahead and allow us to spend that additional money to give the city this platform, which is really more about giving us assistance to help y'all. Because 90,000 cars coming up and down here daily at 5 o'clock. I don't know if any of y'all try to get on your phone or on your computers at that time period anywhere near Bandera, it gets clogged. And so this gives us 100% priority over everybody. So in the past, our computers would just sit there and spin. It's no longer doing that. We'd have drop calls because of it. It's no longer doing that. We have priority. Our law enforcement and fire department and public works have priority on the system. So now that he's here, I'm going to hand it back off to him.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And
Mayor and
welcome.
Council,
Welcome.
good evening.
Chief.
Thank you for having me.
Glad you're here.
And Happy New Year. I
Yes,
was going to
Happy
say Merry
New Year
Christmas
to you
and Happy
too.
New Year.
There you go.
Like Chief said, I first found out about FirstNet when I was at the FBI National Academy in Quantico. What I found out is that FirstNet was a congressional mandate following the attacks on 9/11. So what happened is there were crashes on all the telecommunication systems. They could not handle everything that was happening that day. So the system went completely down just about all over the United States, but predominantly on the East Coast. So afterwards, Congress said, we have to have a system that keeps first responders connected. So AT&T was awarded that contract. It went out for bid. They have a 25-year contract, and they've been doing their infrastructure for the next several years. I think they're 2.5 years into a 5-year build-out. So they're doing fantastic things. So if you want to know basically what FirstNet does, it's a communications platform that keeps us connected. So think about being on the highway and there's a wreck and you're pushed off on the access road. So everything is backed up. You can't get where you need to go. First responders get to stay on the highway. We get to the problem and we get to fix the problem. So I can tell you that I started talking to the chief immediately. He understood the importance. We, of course, co-opted the city manager into the plan, and under their leadership, we went ahead and moved forward. We had council approval and a budget adjustment last year, and we started the service. We went ahead and installed some of the equipment in the officers' vehicles. Crystal, will you roll the first video, please? This is a
You
basic
already know
understanding
FirstNet
of what
is the
does.
nationwide public safety communications ecosystem for first responders and those who support them. FirstNet has wireless service plans for smartphones, tablets, routers, and mobile data terminals all run on FirstNet. But did you know FirstNet fully embraces the Internet of Things, IoT? IoT is the ever-expanding network of connected devices that allows organizations to be more efficient and effective. With IoT, first responder agencies and those who support them can quickly and easily deploy devices critical to the mission using a FirstNet SIM that automatically connects to FirstNet. For instance, FirstNet-ready routers can convert vehicles into mobile hotspots. This improves response time and information sharing and reduces time spent on administrative tasks. FirstNet-ready sensors can help track traffic congestion, detect objects and gunshots, and report hazardous materials in the air and environment, all in near real time. Access to this information is critical for first responders and those coordinating an event in the command centers. Fleet solutions allow command centers to keep track of their assets during an event or emergency and to know which vehicles have an issue or need maintenance. And if you want to help ensure the safety of first responders using those assets, wearable sensors can transmit vital information. You can see oxygen levels in the mission space, detect the presence of carbon monoxide, track abnormal heart rhythms, monitor elevated body temperatures, and follow increased respiratory rates. From public safety to transportation, from smart cities to healthcare, IoT enhances your communication by connecting all your assets.
Okay, very
Some of
good.
that technology is already in use. For example, FirstNet already has a watch that will pair with your existing device, and it will detect elevated heart rates of an officer. They're already using it in canines to detect whether or not an animal is left inside a patrol vehicle and somebody forgets, or the air conditioner turns off, and they'll be able to track the animal if it gets lost. So some of that technology is already in use. A lot of it is on the horizon. The only reason it wasn't already implemented is because they didn't have a network to be able to support, to be able to keep everybody connected. For example, if a firefighter gets out on a fire and they put on an O2 sensor and it runs on Bluetooth, well, there's not enough data that's left on the system because everybody else is using it. So FirstNet keeps the first responders connected so that way they can do their jobs. But it didn't stop there. I have a great working relationship with FirstNet. So it moved forward to a press release that we had here in September of last year. You guys were all here. The big satellite truck that was out front, that's what they call a deployable. I think they have 10 of them in Texas. Texas has the biggest site of all these deployables. They have them throughout the United States, but Texas has most of them. And that thing was so new that they wouldn't release it because all the equipment was on there, but they didn't want to release it because it's something that's very valuable to them. It's valuable to all of us. But because I have a really good relationship with the guy that I met when I was in Quantico, I pick up the phone. He works out of D.C., and he says, yes, we're going to make that happen for the city of Leon Valley. So that deployable truck was over here. We used it for a backdrop for several pictures, and those guys loved it. They loved what we did. So we took it one step further, and we initiated a marketing video. Crystal, would you push up that second one?
Probably the most unique thing about Leon Valley is that it's a small city in the middle of the 7th largest city in the nation. We have only about 11,500 people in Leon Valley. We have 7 apartment complexes in that 3.4 square miles and a lot of neighborhoods, and probably the busiest street in the San Antonio area, if not one of the busiest in the state. We have upwards of 90,000 cars come up and down that road each and every day. The problem with that is those cars cause a lot of accidents. We were on a large nationwide carrier, one of your largest in the nation, yet we still continued to get drop calls or couldn't get through on our computers when we really needed to.
Almost everything we have relies on a computer somehow, and almost every piece of equipment we have requires internet service or network connections. And if we have a slowdown in those communications that stops us from bringing in the appropriate assets, sometimes people's lives depend on those responses.
There have been times in the past where our 911 calls were actually routed to the wrong agency because of network congestion. There are huge risks when we are unable to communicate with first responders on the scene, especially during an emergency or at a crisis.
The Public Works Department supports our public safety by being their backup, basically. If they respond to an emergency and they need a barricade or they need a backhoe or a front-end loader, we respond immediately to those requests. If the communication lines are down, then I can't receive those calls from our police and fire.
What was impressive about FirstNet is the fact that it was built for first responders, something that we desperately needed. We immediately deployed Cradlepoint routers to all of the mobile data terminals in the officers' vehicles. The command staff has FirstNet phones.
We use FirstNet in every vehicle we have. We have a modem in there, a network device, and we connect wirelessly to that modem with all of our computers. For us, FirstNet has connected the first time, every time, anywhere we go.
If you haven't seen that video before, I'm quite proud of it. It was very professionally done, and it was at zero cost to the taxpayers. That was an idea that was presented to us, and AT&T sent their FirstNet team down to Leon Valley. They coordinated through their offices on the East Coast, sent a team from Dallas. They came down here for a couple of days. They put all of that footage together, and they're using this throughout the United States. So most of the larger agencies use FirstNet, but some of the smaller agencies do not. We were the first in this region to use it. So FirstNet thought that it was tremendous that we were taking the lead as far as some of the smaller agencies to do that. So they used us as a tool to be able to tell other people across the United States how it works for cities of our size.
Very good.
And I stand for questions.
Okay, thank you. We have a different way of processing our questions now.
Sure.
And so I want to ask our citizens and our guests in the chambers if you have any questions for Chief Salcedo this evening on the FirstNet program. Yes, Ms. Hill, if you'll just come to the podium because we are recording. That's the only consideration we need. Yes, that's okay. All questions are good. Good evening and welcome.
Hi, thank you. Kathy Hill on Mary Jameson Street. Assistant Chief Salcedo, is this that program it's that platform that also, if you're having to respond to an emergency, does it connect with the lights on Bandera Road with the traffic signals and am I jumping the gun, or is it something different?
It's completely separate.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
That is controlled by the state. So this is just to keep the first responders connected. Keep us connected, yes.
Good question. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. And anyone on our council have a question for Chief Salcedo or a comment? Yes. Councilor Hody.
I don't get to use the word nifty too often, but boy, that's really cool. Is this video available on YouTube so the folks at home that couldn't see it, that are watching, can pull it up?
It's been released nationally. It's on YouTube.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Yes, Councilor
I
Charles.
just wanted to comment that what a coup, getting the big truck here, arranging that. I was here during that presentation that day, and it was something to see. So.
I drink beer with the right people.
Congratulations.
No, I had a really good relationship with Ryan Birchnell out of D.C. He was there. One of the many things that we discussed during our time at the Academy, of course, the training is absolutely second to none, but the networking is what's of significant value also. So when we all sit around, we don't talk about how great our agencies are. We talk about the issues that come up, and that was one of the things is communications, network, that kind of thing. And when I found out about FirstNet and what its capability is, by all means, that stuff sells itself.
All right. Well, it just increases the safety and protection of our citizens.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
And we really appreciate that. Thank you for your leadership in getting FirstNet here. Do appreciate it.
You're welcome. My privilege.
Mm-hmm. You bet. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. Moving then to presentation number 2.3, presentation of the certification of sufficiency of recall petitions. Ms. Posley, our city secretary, is here to present. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Stuff out.
Excuse me, give me just a second. A lot of stuff to spread out here. Okay. Purpose of this item is to present the report of completion of the certification of a petition submitted to recall and remove Monica Alcacer, Council Place 3, and Donna Charles, Council Place 1, in accordance with Section 6.03D of the City of Leon Valley Code of Ordinances, Home Rule Charter. I'm going to start with the petition that was submitted for Place 1, Donna Charles. Excuse me. I will say that I stopped the certification at the required number, so I'm only going to focus on those.
Oh, okay.
So 564 signatures were verified. Of those 564, 5 signatures were voters who canceled their registration. 22 signatures were non-registered voters. 1 signature was provided by a person who neglected to provide their date of birth or voter ID, which that is required to do this petition. 6 signatures were rejected. Why were they rejected? That was because they either didn't sign, or there was one that was a person named Jason and Jennifer signed. One, or something like that. I'm not going to say names, but it was similar. 1 signature was a duplicate, and 11 signatures were provided by registered voters outside of Leon Valley. So for Ms. Charles, Place 1, that left of the 564, 518 of those were valid. On the petition submitted for Place 3, Monica Alcacer, 566 were verified. Of those 566, 11 signatures were voters who canceled their registration. 17 signatures were non-registered voters. 3 signatures were provided by people who neglected to give their date of birth or voter ID. 4 signatures were rejected. 4 signatures were duplicates, and 15 were outside of Leon Valley. Oops. Oh, goodness. So 512 of those 566 were valid. In summary, both petitions met the 500 signature requirement. Therefore, both petitions are sufficient. I stand for questions.
Okay, thank you. Again, we'll go to our chambers and our citizens and our guests. Are there anyone in the chambers that would have a question on this particular agenda item on the recall? Seeing none, then I will, Mr. Blackmore.
I'm a citizen of Texas, taxpayer in Leon Valley. Question. Is there any way of verifying the names on those, on this petition? That, because I've gotten word, none of my neighbors ever got contacted about a petition. I was informed some names might have been written in that didn't sign it. People signed their names on that petition. Any way of verifying that?
If I'm understanding you, you're suggesting that some of the signatures were forged?
Falsified. Yes.
I'll defer to the attorney for that.
The presumption is that the signatures are valid if they meet the prerequisites of this. I'm sorry. The presumption is the signatures are valid if they meet the prerequisites of the statute and the charter, which they did.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we have another question or comment. Mr. Johnson.
William Johnson, 4 Stokes Canterfield. Just for clarification, there were over 800 signatures submitted for each recall petition, and you stopped counting when you reached the 500 limit required. So in essence, there were another 240 signatures for each of the petitions that were not even looked at, is what I figure based on your statements. Is that true?
No, sir. For Councilor Alcacer, there was 258 unchecked. Now, that does not mean that those were valid signatures. As I said earlier, just on hers alone, there were 15 duplicates. I'm sorry, 4 duplicates on hers. And then several of those were not even in the district. Several of them are also non-registered. So we don't really discuss the ones that weren't checked because it's not to say they're valid or not. We are only required 500 signatures per the charter, so that's what we discussed. On Councilor Charles, there was an extra 250 that was unchecked.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Blackmore.
I was also told that this petition was represented to some people, that a recall was going on for the mayor and Mr. Bradshaw. Representing the petition. There's no way of verifying other than what you got.
Blackmore, what I got is what I got.
It's amazing to me. You had less than 1,000 people voting in the last election. In the last 2 elections, we're going to get that many people out to vote in the next election? I like to see that. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. If you'll please state your name and where you live, please.
Leslie Bacon, and I
Thank you.
live in Forest Oaks, Canterville. And I would like to ask Mr. Blackmore, who stands up here and says twice that he's heard that there is falsification of this going on. Who have you heard that from, Mr. Blackmore?
Okay. I'm not sure
exactly?
if that's appropriate. We need to ask Ms. Posselet the question and not Mr. Blackmore. So
Mr. Blackmore, who?
maybe you could just talk to him in private. Yeah, that might be the best way.
Because to just stand up here and say, well, I've heard this, and to question people
Certainly.
is not appropriate in a city council meeting.
Well, I think it is.
Okay. Okay, excuse me. Thank you. Yes.
Josh Stevens in Forest Oaks. I just wanted to say, first of all, on behalf of the hundreds of citizens that did sign and that participated and that walked the blocks and all that, we really do appreciate. We know that there's a lot of work that has to go into verifying those as we tried to verify them for ourselves. But so sincerely, thank you for that. And as to Mr. Blackmore's comments, all the petitions are notarized, and so it would be perjury if there's falsification on the document. So I would encourage you to tell those people to reach out to the police department or the district attorney or whoever to report those, because I don't believe that personally happened. I mean, I'll tell you that I personally obtained signatures from people that are on your street. So I don't know what neighbors you talked to and which ones you didn't, but I can guarantee you within a stone's throw of your house, there's multiple people that signed.
Okay. I don't know, Mr. Blackmore, I think we've kind of gone back and forth. I think when we had our discussion about the citizen input, you were not going to be able to go back and forth. You were going to be able to come and state your whatever you wanted and then sit back down. So, Mr. Blackmore, if you'll please sit, I'd appreciate that. Mr. Riddle, if you'll please come up. So again, if you'll come to the podium and state whatever you want, all the questions, and then if you'll sit down, because again, we looked at this as a way of making our meetings run a little bit more efficient. So, thank you, for your understanding. Mr. Riddle.
Yes, my name is Philip Riddle on Reeve Sophie Street. Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Given that all of this is appropriate, and could somebody or will somebody in the future outline what the procedures are if the recalls happen, they don't happen? If they do happen, how does that affect when we get the vote for the next city councilman, whatever?
Okay.
That's my
The
question.
timeline, I think, is what you're asking. Okay.
Yeah, and maybe the city attorney.
Very good. Let me see if there's any other questions from in our chambers. All right. And let me ask our counselors, do you have any questions for Ms. Pasley on the recall petition? Yes, Counselor Hody.
So what happens next?
That was my question, but I was going to defer to the...
If you don't mind me reading what happens next, because
Sure.
like you, this is the first. Oh, did you want to answer?
No, I want you to go ahead and do it. You're prepared.
I'm sorry. I worked really hard on this. No, I'm just kidding. But if you wanted to answer, that's fine too. Maybe I lost it. Maybe you will answer. I had it. Yeah, I have a map pretty
You
much.
want me to go get it?
Well, there you go. Okay, so as of this evening, because we've made our report, Councilor Charles and Councilor Alcacer have 5 work days to request a hearing, and they can do that up until Tuesday. Tuesday is day 5. Now here's where I'm going to make sure I read this. After that, find that on here. That is in section 6.04 of the charter, which you don't have here. Okay. And at that time, they're able to ask for a public hearing. The public hearing has to be held within no more than 30 days, which is March. I have that written on my notes. That's March 21st, and no less than 15 days, which is April 5th, days before early voting, which is April 20th through April 28th. That's when their public hearing would be held. During that public hearing, they're allowed 30 minutes to speak. During that public hearing, there is no public comment. That's also in your charter. In section 6.06, following the public hearing, it states, if the individual whose removal is sought does not resign, then the City Council shall, for the next available uniform election, order an election for holding such recall election. And that's where we're at. So the next step would be the public hearing, after we are noticed by however the councilors choose to. They have an opportunity basically for the next 5 days to decide, do they want to resign or hold a public hearing?
Would you make a comment on calling the election? I thought that had to be done before a certain date.
Well, I'm not sure the date, the exact date, but the council can call the election at the next meeting.
Okay.
Which would be after, yeah. After the 5 days.
And then if the what your charter says under 505, as Sandra pointed out, both members who are subject to the recall have the right to call for a public hearing within the next 5 days, and that public hearing is to be held no more than 30 days and no less than 15 days before the day of the early voting. Couple of things. One is that because of new statutory changes, you will have to have some type of citizens to be heard provision, even though your charter prohibits it. The statutes just changed. You have to comply with the statute. There's one last thing. Oh, I need to read 6.06 so everyone understands. If the individuals whose removal is sought does not resign, then the City Council shall, for the next available uniform election date, order the election. So that would be your next step, is to go ahead and order the election.
All right. Next step, could you clarify that? Next step after the 5 days?
No, I don't think, I think they're independent. I think you can go ahead and, the council at the next agenda.
Right.
Yeah.
Which would be after the 5 days.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, you're right.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councilor Bradshaw.
So if I'm understanding correctly, sorry, I'm losing my voice. If I'm understanding it correctly, the City Council needs to put this on the agenda to order the election, and that can be done at any time in the next council meeting, at a future council meeting.
Well, you're limited by what the Bear County election folks will let you put it on the ballot, but so sooner is probably better than later if you want to make sure to get on the ballot.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, I'd like to make a motion for.
No, there's no action.
Yeah, there's no action.
It's already on the next one.
I want to make a motion. It's already on the next.
Yes, we just have to wait the 5 days.
Yes.
And then we just can't do it on this agenda tonight. We have to give them their 5 days, and then it would
But I
be
just
on
wanted
the
to make
next
sure
agenda.
that it was getting put on.
Correct.
Agenda. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you very much. There's no other questions from our counselors. Thank you, Sandra, for your presentation. Do appreciate it. All right. Moving then to agenda item number 3, City Manager's Report. Ms. Kinsler, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. This is pretty short and sweet. The infamous dog Houdini has been captured and relocated. That's the one that's been giving us so much trouble at Settlers Ridge. So the dog literally is on a ranch and very happy right now. So, and it's not bothering Leon Valley residents. So that has been a problem for a couple of months now. A real ranch, yeah. Yeah. On behalf of the police department, we want to again sincerely thank citizens, employees, council members who contributed to Blue Santa. Over 600 children benefited, including 150 of them at the Methodist Hospital, which Councilor Alcacer went to that one. That was a big one. Sergeant Casey Burleson worked tirelessly and put in the most hours of all staff, both paid and volunteer. The rest of the staff, most of it was volunteer. There was over 1,000 volunteer hours donated by staff to ensure that this program was a huge success. We also had city council participation at all events, but the police department asked that I specifically acknowledge one council member who was there at all but one event and who didn't come and show up and leave, but who worked, who served, who got on the floor and rapped, who swept, who toted ice around, who worked. And that is a special thank you to Dr. Catherine Rodriguez from the police department for everything that you did. I'd also like to get a consensus on how you would like the room set up for Saturday's presentation on the changes proposed in the Home Rule Charter. It'll be right here. And so do you want it set up like this, or would you like a U shape, like a more of a working group? What would you prefer?
Is it going to be videoed?
Yeah, so if it's going to be live streamed, then you can't have it on the floor.
Didn't even think about
that. I was
that.
going to say, if it was live streamed, yeah, we probably have to stay here, but I'd prefer it down there, but because it's more comfortable.
And it doesn't matter, but if you live stream it, you'll have to have access to it.
Yeah.
You have to have access
Okay,
to it.
so leave the room the same.
Oh, yeah, unless
Okay.
they don't want it live streamed.
Okay.
We could still put tables down there, right, for the citizens? Are we going to have some kind of food for them to eat?
We weren't planning on, it was 2 hours.
Okay.
We weren't planning
All
on
right.
it.
All right. That's,
Do you want to leave it,
yeah,
the room set up the way
we'll
it is?
just leave it like that. I thought, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. What do y'all think? The rest of the counselors just leave it like it is? Okay. That's great.
Okay.
Everybody bring your own coffee. Yeah.
A special e-news went out this afternoon reminding citizens about this Saturday's Home Rule Charter Workshop. And also its placement on the January 21st agenda and at the town hall meeting, so that citizens know they have 3 more times, because they've already had one time, 3 more times to learn about this and provide some input. It's Time Texas. The little flyers look like this. You'll see them on the e-news. There's some laid out there on the table, but it's that time of year again. And if you look at this, which will be in our e-news or on the little sheets, there's a website where you can sign up. And what you do is you just log your hours, basically, of fitness. And Leon Valley always fares really well in this competition. And through it, you can win like gift cards and fitness equipment and various prizes. So we would encourage everybody in Leon Valley to sign up for that, and we'll make sure we get it out on social media as much as we can. The Leon Valley Fire Department will be participating in the Cystic Fibrosis Tower Climb again this year, which we've done for years. It'll be on the 25th of January, so like always, it'll be during our town hall meeting. So we'll be rooting them on in spirit as we gather input from our citizens. Also want to acknowledge our library staff and our EMS staff. They yesterday had a lost elderly woman who either had dementia or Alzheimer's one, and were able to figure out with the help of EMS where she belonged, and were able to get her family here to retrieve her and help her. And so anyway, I want to thank you for, I know it took a lot of time and effort and investigative tools to get that done, but thank you for your efforts. The regular city manager's report is out here on the table and online. And with that, I'd stand for questions.
Okay. So again, are there any citizens or guests in our chambers that have a question for the city manager on her report this evening? Okay. Seeing no one. Ms. Kinsler, I just had a question. Is that correct? The special city council workshop for the Home Rule Charter on Tuesday, January 21st is at 4 p.m.? Was that what we decided?
Yes. That's what you all voted on.
I just wanted to verify that, just so everyone saw that that's much earlier.
We have 3 different times. We have a morning, a night, and an afternoon.
Okay, just to, again, try to accommodate everybody's schedule. Right. I thought it was going to be like 5, so when I saw 4, then I just wanted to be sure that I had that right. So.
Okay. Oh, that's right, because you all wanted 2 hours before the council meeting started.
Okay.
Remember that.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Summer. Okay. Any questions from the counselors to Ms. Kinsler on her report? Yes, Councilor Bradshaw.
Sorry, on the workshop on Saturday, do we have a timeline we anticipate it's going to finish? It starts at 9.
Mayor, Councilor Bradshaw, we're anticipating 2 hours.
9 to 11.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to double check.
Okay. Thank you. Really appreciate that. All right. So if there's no further questions, we'll move to agenda item number 4, citizens to be heard. Is there anyone in our chambers that would like to address the council at this time? Please come forward, state your name and where you live, and you have up to 3 minutes to speak unless you needed to have a little extra time to finish your thought. So thank you. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Pat Martinez, Seneca Estates. I just want to commend the Public Works for all the, and whoever helped them with the lights in the park between the library and the community center. This is the first year that they have really lit up that park, and I thought it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. I was a little disappointed that it wasn't lit up like that when we had the conference for the Bandera Road presentation. It was not as, not as many trees were lit up. which they were later on during the week or whatever. But I do appreciate what they did, and I hope they continue with that because it was just beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. All right, anyone else? Good evening and welcome.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
I have a question on the Lion's Roar. I thought that we were, from the content policy, I thought that we were only, anyone that entered an article were only allowed so many words, like the city council members on the last Lion's Roar, where they had copied from the newspaper, from the Express. That was over 500 words, and I thought council members were only allowed 500 words. And staff are only allowed 400. So I felt that that article that was taken from the Express News was very biased. And I just wondered, on Ms. Kessler, you said you were the one that kind of looks over that.
This is a discussion item for later.
Okay,
So
well,
I need to talk about it later, right?
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
It's on the agenda.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It is.
Chief's making new agendas for us, so I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Olin Yarnell, Sulky Lane. In response to Mr. Riddle's request, it seems that there might be some citizens are not completely aware of how this recall process works. Some of us has been involved in it for some time. I have my copy. Is there any way we can put this on the website so people will know the timeline and all the details of how this should happen? It appears to go in section 6.03 through 6.09 is a part of that addresses the recall. You had a legitimate question. How's this going to work? And if this is the only report we get, we're not being really open and transparent.
Okay. Yes, I'll ask Ms. Bosley to please respond.
I'll be posting the petitions and everything that I have on the website, on the election page. But the details of how the recall is in the charter. That's
right,
your
and
process.
that's what I'm asking it be posted so people
It's in
can
the
read it.
charter, which is in the Code of Ordinances.
Well, I understand that, but can we bring it out so people can have it available on the website and be able to review this process as it goes on and not have to dig through a bunch of ordinances to find it? I mean, we got it right here. Why can't we put it on the website?
Well, sir, it's like in the Home Rule Charter, it's in the front of the code book. But, I mean, it'll be in the recall section on the election page, is like tomorrow. I just wanted to do the report before I put it on the website.
Okay, I understand,
On
but
the
I'm
election
asking that
page
this
anyway.
portion of the charter be published public in the on the e-news and in the minutes of this meeting, so people can look at it. This is going on right now. We need to be open and transparent about this process. It seems to me. Why would we be opposed to providing the citizens information? I know you can't answer that.
Right, I can't answer it, but I guess what I hear you say is you just want that section pulled out.
Yes, it's
Okay, that's all.
603.03 through 6.09, as I read the charter, is the part that is involved in the recall process, which is we're involved in right now. So citizens like Mr. Riddle, question, it doesn't have to search through all the detailed information that the city has for people who are involved in it.
Understand.
Like Miss Sandra, and it's easy. You just do a little typing and up pops what you want. Some of us have to scratch and dig, and I'm trying to suggest we don't have people do that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yarnell. Okay, good evening and welcome.
Benny Martinez, Seneca. Looking at Nextdoor lately, we've had a lot of postings by the city manager, I guess with the bad reputation that Leon Valley has. I guess she's trying to make it sound like it's better. But I would like to know when the city council as a body approved the canopy tree program. You know, just like when I was on council, we had a presentation on the Tobacco 21, and it was presented, and council approved it and moved forward. So when did the city council as a body approve the city doing the canopy tree program? When did the city council do the Adopt a Spot program? I tried bringing that when I was on council. I kind of thought that'd be a good thing for the American Legion to maybe adopt one of the monuments. 'Cause, you know, we let them use our facilities quite a bit. And the biggest one is the citywide pavement condition assessment. About 4 years ago, if I remember correct, we purchased software to do an assessment of all our streets. You know, we were doing the slurry seal all the time, and you know, some of the roads get to the point where your curb was about 2 inches or 3 inches. They were never scraped and redone properly. So we bought this expensive software, and then all of a sudden, we see a posting on Next Door Neighbor that the city has hired a company to do an assessment. So when was that approved by city council? A lot of things are happening without city council approval. I'd like to know when these were done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martinez. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Sawyer. Good evening and welcome. Yes, please.
Ann Sawyer, and you said I live in Forest Oaks.
I say
Estates.
Forest Oaks Estates, but
Okay,
other
so-
people say Canterfield 2 or 1, or I'm not sure.
Easier.
Yeah,
I'll go with
but I
that.
know where you live.
Okay, so yes, you know where I live.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up something more fun. You know, like we were talking about the swim team for the kids.
Right.
All right. So I am working with the pool committee. We're trying to hire someone. I found out today someone that we had hopes for is actually working for another team in the league, and we still, you know, nobody's been interviewed or anything yet. I'm kind of nervous about this because in February is when the coaches get together and they make the schedules, and parents don't know about the schedules until like April or May, when school is about to be let out. I don't want this happening again like it did last year where it fell through the cracks. I know there's a lot of drama going on in the city, but I think this is really important that we have swim team again for our kids. So I think that I just want to make sure that the ball doesn't drop.
Very good. Thank you. So noted.
Mayor Riley?
Yes.
You are still in need of pool committee applicants.
Okay.
Where you're appointing next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, if you'd like to actually be a member of the pool committee, Ann, that would be awesome. I don't believe that's on our town hall meeting agenda. Is it, the pools, or is it not? It's not.
Don't know. But you have appointments to be made at the next meeting. You only have 4 or 5 applicants.
Okay, very good.
I thought I'd throw that out there.
So anyone who'd like to volunteer for the pool committee, or we've got several other committees, we'd love to have your volunteer spirit in Leon Valley. So just let us know. All right. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Baldridge, come on up.
I will volunteer again for the pool committee. I didn't voluntarily submit that I would be on it again. But if there is a need, I'll be happy to help with it.
Very good. Thank you. Really appreciate that. You've got a lot of history with that, with the pools. All right. Then we will move to announcements by the mayor and council members. Councilor Charles, do you have any announcements this evening?
I have this sweet little poem, since it's the first of the year. I have this sweet little poem to read. Beautiful faces are they that wear the light of pleasant spirit there. Beautiful hands are they that do deeds that are noble, good, and true. Beautiful feet are they that go swiftly to lighten another's woe. That came from McGuffey's Second Reader. Does anybody remember that? That's our inspiration for the year.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Rodriguez.
Just wanted to say thank you to everybody who participated in Blue Santa. Wish I could have made the hospital event. I was also sick during that time. But as a mother of somebody in the military, I just want us to all keep our military. There was just an airstrike earlier today, so we keep our military in mind.
Thank you for that. All right, Councilor Hody.
Boy, it got to me fast, didn't it?
Yes.
Happy New Year and happy Januallergy to everyone. Somebody came in here blindfolded. I think everyone would know what month it is, and I'm speaking clearly right now, but I guarantee in a few days I'll be like Councilor Bradshaw. Not because of him, but just because of the amount of allergens.
Cedars, yeah.
Yes. Yes, the Blue Santa was an impressive series of events led by our police department and for a very good cause. And don't forget, no styrofoam, no plastic bags in the recycling bins. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Councilor Bradshaw.
Thank everybody for coming tonight. Happy New Year. And sorry you have to listen to me like this. But I just wanted to echo what Ms. Martinez said about the lights at the library and the convention center. It was really, really nice this year. And I went back to Arizona to see family for Christmas, and downtown Mesa, they had a similar thing with lights and stuff. And one thing they had, which I know this year they had at Travis Park, was an ice skating rink outside. And I don't know if we've looked into that or thought about it, but maybe something to consider for next year. I think it would be really nice with the lights to have something for the kids to do by the park. So just a thought. Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, I saw the skating rink downtown because it's not too far from our office, and even in 80-degree weather, you can still ice skate. I don't know how, but you can. So and it was very well attended. Thank you, and I hope you're feeling better, and hope everyone who's suffering from allergies is feeling better as well. Yes, I really enjoyed the Blue Santa. In fact, I wrote it up on my Lions Roar. It was a great event, and 600 children were helped, plus the children at the hospital. But the other thing that struck me was in the manager's report, the fire department, all of the firemen who service progression and continuing education. There was I don't know, maybe 15 firefighters that went through all of that. So congratulations to the fire department as well. Hope to see you all at the town hall meeting. It's the last Saturday of this month. Very important meeting. Met with the manager and the two assistant managers and Francine Romero last week and went over the agenda. And we really, it's kind of like our blueprint for the year, but we really need your input. We have clickers, and we try to gauge the sentiment of our participants. And I know we don't get 11,000 people, but we do get 100 people or maybe more. But it's those people that really, really are engaged. And so please come. Starts at 8:30 to 12:30. And if you see the agenda and you only want to come to a couple of things, that's okay too. But we really would appreciate your input on that day. And thanks to the staff for all of their help and their input and their work on getting together these presentations. And because, it's a team effort. And so we appreciate it very much. All right. So moving then to the consent agenda. Is there any counselor who would like to request removal of consent agenda item 6.1 or 6.2 for discussion? Yes, Councilor
No, I just
Charles.
make a move that we approve 6.1 and 2 as presented.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion by Councilor Charles and a second by Councilor Rodriguez to approve consent agenda items 6.1 and 6.2 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Thank you for that. Moving then to agenda item number 7, ordinance. These are our second reads. As you know, we're a home rule charter community, and we need to have 2 reads, and so we vote on the second read, and 7.1, 2, and 3 are the second reads, and I will ask Ms. Posley if she'll please read 7.1 ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Leon Valley, Texas City Council amending the City of Leon Valley, Texas municipal budget for fiscal year 2019-2020 for the general fund in the amount of $11,823 and the community center in the amount of $11,823 for a total of $23,646, with funding coming from the general fund, economic community development fund, reserved to provide funding for the purpose of purchasing ActiveNet software systems, amending the City of Leon Valley Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, Schedule of Fees, Section A2.000, Administrative Fees, Subsection A2.002, Return Check Charges, to add new language and provide a repealer, severability, and savings clauses, and provide an effective date.
All right, thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Do you have any updates from the I know it seems like we met December 17th. It seems so far away,
so late
but
in
no
the evening.
updates.
No updates.
All right. Let me see if there's any questions from anyone in our chambers before we have any further questions from our council. Good evening and welcome.
William Johnson, Forest Oaks, Canterfield. I think this is a wonderful a piece of software, but my only question is, we're going to put out almost $24,000. Are there annual fees that go with this to continue use of the software, or update fees necessary to maintain this software? I'm not talking about the fees that are charged to those that use the software. I'm talking about charges to the city to run the software and utilize it. Are there recurring fees for that?
All right. Thank you for that question. Missy Acuna.
So there are not any fees to the city. The fees come straight from the transaction fees that are paid by the user to cover any updates or any of those kind of technology fees.
Okay.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Okay. If there's no other questions from our citizens. All right. So what is the pleasure of the council on agenda item 7.1?
I'd like to move that we accept 7.1 as written.
All right. We have a motion by Councilor Rodriguez and a second by Councilor Hody to approve ordinance 7.1 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Just a comment, those people that are really interested in the pool, this is going to help the pool.
That is
you can
correct.
now do all of your transactions online with the pools.
Anytime, 24 hours a day.
So I know that was one of our big
Yes.
issues last year. So thank you for that. Do appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All righty. Moving then to 7.2, Ms. Posley, if you'll please read that ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Leon Valley, Texas, City Council granting a specific use permit for entertainment indoor use at 6400 Bandera Road, more specifically described as Lot 41, Block 2, Linthicum Road, subdivision number 69, the specific use permit being limited to the tenant suite identified as 6412 Bandera Road, providing for repeal or severability and savings clauses, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mr.
Evening, Mayor.
Malone. Are there any updates on this particular
No,
agenda
ma'am.
item?
No
All right.
updates.
Are there any questions from our citizens and guests in the chambers on this agenda item 7.2? Seeing none, is there any questions from the council? Okay, thank you. May I have a motion? Yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance 7.2 as written.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilor Hody and a second by Councilor Rodriguez to approve ordinance 7.2 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Moving then to ordinance number 7.3. Ms. Postlev, if you'll please read that ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Leon Valley, Texas, City Council granting a specific use permit for outside storage on Lot 15, Leon Valley Ranches subdivision, providing for repeal or severability and savings clauses, and providing for an effective date.
All right. And Mr. Milan, again, thank you for being here.
Okay.
Any updates on this one?
No updates.
Okay. All right. Any questions from our chamber? Anyone in our chambers? Or if not, anyone on the council have a question or a comment? All right. Seeing none, may I have a motion, please?
I move that 7.3 be approved as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilor Charles and a second by Councilor Bradshaw to approve ordinance 7.3 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion does carry. Thank you very much. Then moving to the regular agenda, 8.1, discussion on the itemization and summary of attorney fees paid to date for the following Martinez 3.12 hearing, Ryan Henry Martinez versus City of Leon Valley, Ryan Henry ethics complaint against Mayor Riley Allen Bojorquez, as requested by myself. And Vicki, thank you so much for doing this. Do appreciate it. I've had a lot of questions about it, so we
Okay,
wanted
so
to.
basically, what I have compiled, I do it every time, but what I want to make very clear is that, the attorney fees was sort of presented in the pie chart, which I'm going to show you the same pie chart again, only updated at the July 9th meeting, and therefore the numbers that you're fixing to see are going to be updated through January the 6th of 2020, and that additionally the bills, and you're going to see a chart where I've broken down based upon the date, the check, and the amount that started from the May 30th through the October 17th. So there's some in fiscal year 20 that you haven't
Right.
seen, and some from the very beginning that you have not seen. So those were emailed either by the city secretary, the mayor, or the council, so you're going to see a little bit of difference in that when
Okay.
you see this.
Great.
Okay? So this is the pie chart that you've already seen. It has only been updated, which shows the breakdown of how much the cost of the investigation and 312 hearing, and this is to date, and then how much the cost to defend the City of Leon Valley. And I don't know why it keeps. Really? Okay. And so the summary of it, for fiscal year 19, the city spent $56,712 on the investigation and the 312 hearing. For the Martinez versus the City of Leon Valley lawsuit, fiscal year 19, we spent $32,089, and in fiscal year 20, we spent $21,766. For the ethics complaint, for fiscal year 20, we didn't spend anything. In 19, we spent $11,435.82. This is what you haven't seen all of. So what I did is I took and I broke down, and where you see processing, those are the checks that are just being processed this week. So that just lists every single check and the reason for the check and the amount then by fiscal year in detail. And then that one for the ethics complaint, we have two. The last one is the one we're processing this week, and will go out. And then the funding sources was something that you had asked about.
Yes, I did.
For the Martinez investigation, the 312 hearing, and the Martinez, the lawsuit, for fiscal year 19, the city paid out of the manager and council contractual budget $49,467. In fiscal year 20, we've paid $21,766. For the ethics complaint, in fiscal year 20, we've paid the $11,435. And then out of the enterprise contractual budget for the investigation, the 312 hearing, and the lawsuit for fiscal year 19, we paid $39,333.35. And that concludes.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to, of course, I've had people ask me about this particular topic, but there's a pending ethics complaint against me that was filed by my colleague, Donna Charles, and I guess I'm concerned because it looks like it's going to be another 312 hearing from what I could tell. And so, I, I'm just trying to look at it of how can we save taxpayer money. And so I've sent a letter on December the 20th requesting a mediation, and I haven't heard back. So I just want to let the citizens know that, I feel very compelled to try to see if we can cut the attorney fee loss or bills as much as we can. And so that's my, I just wanted to share that with the citizens. But I have not heard back from the Ethics Review Board, but I did send that letter on December the 20th. So, okay, and I thank you for your work, and I'd like to maybe get a copy of your, because we didn't have anything in our packet. Could I get a copy of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I do, okay, I'd appreciate that. You bet. Anybody can get a copy.
I'll email out a copy.
She just knows I'm a paperholic
Yeah, tomorrow.
person.
And I was on
am.
vacation, so that's why it
Yeah.
wasn't in the packet, and so
I
I
understood.
apologize for that.
And this was kind of a late
It was 5 days
request.
past the deadline and you weren't here, so it's okay. But we can get it out. No problem.
Okay, so I appreciate that. Yes, we did have if you'll come to the podium, please.
Leslie Bacon, Forest Oaks, Canterville. I'd like to know, Councilman Charles, what was the specific ethics complaint against our duly elected mayor?
Okay, yeah, it can't be, it's just on the attorney fees. It's just on the attorney fees,
Where
but
can I find that information out about this ethics complaint? How can the citizens find out about this complaint?
Ethics complaints are confidential.
Why are they confidential about a duly elected mayor?
I'm going to defer this to the city attorney because we shouldn't be having this discussion.
It's not on the agenda.
Okay, so can we put it on the agenda?
It may be something that you could schedule some time with the city manager to discuss.
I don't think so.
okay, or she could call Miss Charles. I guess that's another thing she could do.
I'll speak to the other citizens of Leon Valley.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, calling the city manager, I've made certain that I was in none of the
Well, I didn't mean that, I meant the
deliberations.
process, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, I didn't, yeah.
Excuse me, that's okay. We're not gonna, we can't go back and forth, please.
I
Thank you.
apologize, I didn't mean to insinuate that the actual merits or the complaint itself would be heard, but the process.
Process.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's quite concerning, but anyway, thank you. Anyone else question about the attorney fees? That's the topic. Yes.
Benny Martinez, Seneca. I have a big question on the amounts. Looking at Henry's bills, excluding the ethics complaint, we were at, I think I was at like $112,000, and what was reported here is less than $100,000. So where is the big discrepancy in the amounts?
Can we factually comment? Right. When I did the math just real quickly, I thought it was 110,000 from what I was seeing. So
That's correct.
Right.
And so what was original, that's why I started with that few sentences to say, okay, this has changed from what you guys originally saw back on July the 9th, or bills that you had gotten emailed to you because none of the October ones had gone out yet to you guys, and we're still processing them.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, again.
Good evening.
Taking Mr. Riddle's lead, and since the lady was on vacation, can we have this available online and in the minutes of this meeting so we can be open and transparent with all this? Because if you're not here or you're not watching on live stream, you don't have this information. We need to get it out to the citizens because the citizens are paying the taxes where this money originates.
We just stated that we would get it out. It'll be in the packet and it'll be sent to you all, so that's already done.
You stated you're going to give it to the council.
It'll be in the packet as well.
The packet's already been distributed. For
So it will be added to the packet. It was
Added
5
to the
days
packet.
late and Vicki was on
Right,
vacation.
okay, that's what I'm asking for.
So,
Add it to the
yeah,
packet so we can
absolutely.
have access to it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was, yeah, thank you. All right, anything else? All right, then we move to regular agenda item number 8.2, discussion and possible action. Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, the council. Oh, see, we're still, it's this new process. Thank you, Mr. Hody. Comments, please, on agenda 8.1. Yes, go ahead.
So, Ms. Wallace, are the 312 hearing attorney fees complete after whatever gets processed here?
Sir, I do not have that answer. I don't know anything about the investigation. I just know what comes through our office that we process. That we
I can
need
answer that.
City manager to address, yes.
The 312 side of that pie chart is complete. The Benny Martinez lawsuit against the city of Leon Valley is still ongoing, so we're still continuing to get bills on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
And then the other question I have, Ms. Vicki, is could you go back to the pie chart here, which is helpful for a visual person?
I don't know if it's just operator error.
It's not you.
There we go. It's like, I'm just barely touching it.
Okay. Can you or somebody else in here explain to me the 5360? Is that what that says there? Oh, here, it's right in front of me. Yeah, the 5,365% that says, with the blue, that says Mayor Riley, other.
I would defer to the city manager on that.
Sure, I can explain that. In Mr. Henry's bills, we weren't really sure where to place that. Mayor Riley had a lot of questions about the authority of the city manager to actually ask for an investigations when civil rights violations or complaints were given to her. And so Mr. Henry did research and like a 7-page memo to the council, which explained the authority both legally and through our purchasing policy. I just didn't know where to categorize that, and so that's how we ended up doing it.
Okay, I understand the separation. So would that be considered clarifications requested by the mayor? And I don't know, maybe the mayor can answer that as well.
You bet. I had a lot of questions. I sure did. But what I'd also like to say is let's show the other counselors questions. I believe Ms. Alcacer had a lot of questions as well. And I'm not sure about anybody else, but I know Ms. Alcacer was very involved. But to single me out, yes, I did have a lot of questions from the get-go.
So this was separated by my conversations with the attorney in that the questions, any questions that the mayor or any counselor had or any interviews that dealt with the 312 hearing are in the green part. The blue part is strictly the part about the city manager and the city manager's authority. That's the way it's separated out. So anytime the mayor is speaking to Mr. Henry about the 312 hearing, it's in the green. Anytime it's not about either one of those and we didn't know how to classify them, it's in the blue. But so there's mayor stuff in the green, there's Alcacer stuff in the green, there's whatever Martinez, whoever else talked to Ryan Henry, I can't even remember from the bills.
All right, that was not clear to me.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I hope it's clear now.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Yes, Mr. Bradshaw. Councilor Bradshaw, I'm sorry.
So referring to the pie chart, 56,000 for the 312 hearing, 48,500 for Mr. Martinez's lawsuit against the city of Leon Valley, and then $5,300 from Mayor Riley. Did that money get paid out of different budgets?
Yes, and the 56,000 was not for the 312 hearing. It was for both the investigation and the 312 hearing. We just lumped those together. We didn't separate those, so that's for both of the things. And it got paid out of, Ms. Wallace actually showed you a screen to show you where it actually came from. Most of it came from the manager and council budget. But that's the screen right there that she showed you so you could see where it came from.
Okay, but I mean, we separated them all out, but Total, it's 110,000 and growing. Is that true?
As long as the lawsuit it continues to be open, then yes, it'll continue to grow because we'll need to continue to respond.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Now we'll move then to regular agenda 8.2, discussion and possible action regarding the Lions Roar policy and content. Crystal, do we have the actual policy that we can show that was in the packet? Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay. I had a question about the last Lions Roar on page 8. I think Ms. Charles submitted that. And then on page 9, it was a editorial from the Express News. But it said it was republished by Scott Huddleston, staff writer, San Antonio Express News. But the editorial board is separate, so I was just wondering how did that come about? It doesn't show who requested that article to be put in this newspaper.
So actually, I don't think that that's about policy and content, but I can answer it. I'll defer to the city attorney on that. That's up to you all.
I want to know what policy did you use according to this guideline to put this in the Lions Roar? I guess that's the question I have.
So the policy I used is right in front of you.
Right. If you'll specifically.
This is a policy that I used. And I think there's a couple of things to say about it. Number one, editorial contributions are allowed. I did get the permission of Scott Huddleston, who explained to me that's actually a board that does the editorials. The person doing the Lions Roar, actually, this was only her second time. She's new, and it was sent to her from Counselor Alcacer, but it didn't get attributed to Counselor Alcacer. So in the upcoming Lions Roar, you'll see a little box showing that whatever page it was and whatever article it was asked to be published by Counselor Alcacer, because we accidentally left that off of the last one. And so that's what we used, was number 5. And then number 11, final discretion, is with the city manager. I have not actually, it doesn't matter if it's staff. Chief Salvaggio was the latest example. Mayor, you're an example. When we do fact checks on everything that's submitted. And when there is an article that's submitted that's more than 400 words for staff or 500 words for counselor, for instance, Counselor Alcacer's, I don't know if it was 500 words or more, but it was one page, which is usually about 500 words. I don't go and chop words, just like when I edit yours for factually, or the staff does, and we add words, we don't edit it and take words out. To me, it's more important that the submission or the article is with substance than it be 5 or 10 words over. And so literally what we're going on is a final discretion is the city managers. What you're going to notice in the next Lions Roar is that there is an article that's way in excess of 400 words on what you all have done with the animal ordinance. But I feel it needs to be comprehensive. You did a lot of work on it. Your CPAC committee did a lot of work on it. Your police department did a lot of work on it. And the police chief feels like that it needed to be a thorough article, and then he's going to dissect it one by one in the upcoming, in the additions after that. So you're going to find sometimes in the past there have been staff articles that exceed that, and we just let it go.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
so. All right. Well, I've just never seen in the tenure that I've lived here, I've never seen a Express News editorial article that is one-sided put in our Lions Roar. And that's what concerned me.
Yeah, the article, actually, I talked to Mr. Huddleston, and like I said, my main concern, because we can have editorial contributions, I just wanted to know that we had permission, and then I wanted to credit it to the counselor that wanted it in there, and I was not able to do that, but it is going to be correct. It's already been submitted for correction for this line.
But I guess my question is, Scott Huddleston is not on the editorial board, so how can he give you permission to print an editorial?
Scott Huddleston was on this editorial board, and I have his email, yes.
Okay. I thought he was just a writer, not on the board. You know, it's like, what's his name, Josh Brodowski. You know, you've seen it.
He told me there was a board and that we always, I have to get you the email, but that we always have permission to reprint it.
All right.
That was my concern, is reprinting it, and it's because it's the editors are supposed to be unbiased. It's not a Leon Valley. It's not a Leon Valley City Council person. It's an editorial board that's looking at a whole issue. That was a hard one for me. But as I read the policy, I felt like editorials were allowed. The only thing that I feel like was missed, and it's my fault, because it should have been credited to a certain counselor, and that's my fault. But it'll be fixed this time.
Well, did the editorial board contact you before they wrote this article, or contact somebody in Leon Valley before they made this opinion?
I have no idea. I didn't even know the editorial was out there.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
That's concerning. Okay. I'll bring this up. Yes, if there's, I'm going to stop talking. I'll ask if there's anyone in the council chambers that would like to address this agenda item again. It's on what's in front of you, and I believe we could tie it back into the Lions Roar because it goes together. So, yes, Mr. Riddle. Good evening.
Good evening. Philip Riddle on Seneca. I just wanted to say I noticed the business ads in the Lions Roar, and I think, was this the first issue?
Yes.
All right.
And it'll continue from this point forward.
Okay, good.
We're really trying to change it up a little bit. The thing that I'm really trying to focus on is number 2. Take that stuff out of there and let's get some good stuff in the Lions Roar.
Good job. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Good evening and welcome.
I seem to be following Mr. Riddle this evening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the policy, and it says on number 4, additionally, the publisher prohibits promotion or recommendations of specific businesses in the newsletter. So how is it we have a item in the newsletter on page 10 that tells us that this particular business is the business of the month? And how did that become the business of the month? That seems to be not in compliance with the policy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please.
Sure. This is talking about advertising rights within the newsletter. They're not paying for any type of advertising. What we're doing is trying to showcase our business, our local businesses,
Well, I think it's a good idea
to encourage
that
use
it's not
of them.
according to policy, ma'am. As I read that, am I reading it wrong? It says, does it say prohibits? Additionally, publisher prohibits promotion and recommendations. It's number 4, the last. Can we enlarge that on the screen, please?
Yeah, I see how that second sentence, yeah. can be made, however.
I mean, it's a good
business for
idea.
Donating or sponsorship.
But we're not
from
going by the
event.
policy.
Yeah.
So apparently, we need to address the policy of it, huh?
I agree with you. When I was looking at advertising rights, I'm thinking somebody that's paying rather than us showcasing a local business. But yeah, I think we should probably amend that.
So is that done by the council, or is that done by the management of the city?
This
or-
policy right here is a council policy.
So at the same time, they could change the bottom one where it says final discretion regarding newsletter is shall be by the city manager?
The council is your policy-making body. They can
that
change
would be a
whatever they
good time to
want.
bring that up.
They can do it. They can do whatever they want. And in
Okay.
fact, tonight there's action. So if you want to change anything tonight,
Well, I'd say let's be transparent about this whole thing and take action on it. And you said that Mr. Huddleston is a member of the editorial board?
Mr. Huddleston is the one who I contacted to see if I could get permission because his name was on there, and then I received an email from him giving us permission to reprint it.
Okay, but you just stated that Mr. Huddleston is a member of the editorial board of Express News.
That is my understanding, is that he was one of the members of this editorial board.
So this whole...
I may be wrong, but that is my understanding, yes.
Okay, is there any way we can
Based
verify
on the
that?
email that I have, that's my understanding.
Can we get copies of that email so we can have open and transparent
Absolutely. I just told the mayor I would give her a copy.
to
Sure.
the citizens? Can we get it on the e-news or online?
No, you can do an open records request.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about that, ma'am. I'm talking about open, transparent operations of our city.
Open records
Okay,
request.
yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe, I don't know, but we're not going to, let's not go back and forth and argue or
sorry.
anything like that,
It's-
okay? So just, I know what
There's some
you want
untruths
to, you
in
want to
this that
see.
are disturbing.
Okay.
And I'm trying to find out where they came from.
Mhm.
And how did they get in this? It says right here, Mr. Huddleston is a staff writer.
Mhm.
But now she tells us that's not true. It seems to be we need to be a little more open with what we're doing.
I believe I heard Ms. Kinsler say you'd have to do an open records request to get that email from her. Is that what I understood?
That's not being open. Please.
Well, that's the process that has to be followed.
Is that a decision of the council? Is that state statute or?
It's not my
who
decision,
decided
but I
all
mean,
this?
it's
We
the
didn't
law.
used to have to do this. We could get information by just requesting it. The citizens are paying the taxes that are operating this whole thing. And you're making us jump through a bunch of hoops to get information that should come to us without any trouble. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I need to go sit down.
Okay.
Josh Stevens.
Yes, good
Forest
evening.
Oaks. So let's see. So about the open records request first, I filed an open records request for the said email from Mr. Huddleston, who I also have contradictory information from, and I still have yet to receive that open records, and that was on December the 13th. So I filed a complaint with the Attorney General's office. I'm very familiar with the game the City of Leon Valley likes to play to prevent transparency with the public, but nonetheless, I'm working on getting that email that Ms. Kunstler alleges that she has from Mr. Huddleston. But I just wanted to bring, I'm not looking for a response.
Excuse me,
Everything's-
Mr. Stevens, her name is Ms. Kinsler.
Okay, I'm sorry. I really did not know that. So I just want to, this whole policy is unenforceable. And I know that, and I've, it's supposed to be a resolution. Resolutions aren't really that enforceable. But what is enforceable is Texas laws. And I would just encourage you in your free time to look at the following penal codes, and then think about the lion's roar and think about how these things may have been violated. Look at chapter 36, 37, 39. Look at the Texas Election Code, chapter 255. Also look at what the Texas Ethics Commission has the ability to do. And then look at our own ethics ordinance that was just passed in April of this year. And I think that you'll see that there's 2 pages of articles that may create more problems than benefits for the authors or, people who push those for publication. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Good evening and welcome. If you'll state your name and where you live, please.
Robin Johnson, Forest Oaks, Canterfield. In commenting on the number of words allowed, the city manager has already said that that varies. Instead of having an exact word count, if you're looking at revising this, then it should probably be done as a page worth, double typed, single typed, something like that, instead of having an exact word count. That gives you the ability to edit, to move around, or to adjust as long as it fits on the page.
Okay, thank you. And good evening and welcome, Mr. Blackmore.
Well, Happy New Year to you, Miss Riley.
Same
I think
to
you've
you.
done a good job on the Lions Roar. Doing a fantastic job. Putting the information out there. Don't get discouraged, Miss Kinsler.
Not.
There's people supporting you. All I gotta say, try to get it out on time. And not
Agreed.
past our council meetings or whatever. That's all I ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. Good evening and welcome.
Eric Mata, Forest Oaks, Kennerfield. Just wondering, in regards to Lions Roar, regarding the ethics case against the mayor, if the city manager would extend the same courtesy she did to the same councilwomen who are facing the recall petition, if she would extend that same opportunity to the mayor to write an article in rebuttal to these ethics complaints. Also, I'm just finding it hard to imagine that as a city manager, you could play politics in regards to what content entered into our city paper. It's blatantly obvious to us that you decided on your own to pursue this article and making sure you had permission to print that. Okay, we sit here as citizens, can play these games, but it's blatantly obvious the bias involved. And I think that that's why we find ourselves where we're at. We see city employees playing politics and getting involved in games that they should not be, okay? That's a big issue for us.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else on this particular agenda item? All right, let me ask the counselors. Do you have any questions or comments? Yes, Councilor Rodriguez.
My question is, even when our now not sitting councilman was on council, he was always big on business friendly and being the cheerleader, blah, 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 you know, for the businesses. So now it gets put in the Lions Roar and now there's problems. So what's going to be the solution? I mean, they're complaining either way, whether we're trying to promote a business, not anybody in particular, you know, or say this is my favorite, or promoting go here or go there, but we're putting it in there so that way those that are complaining that we're not business friendly can have some kind of relief for it. So, I mean, I don't understand what the problem is now.
Maybe I can help. I think real easily, the way you can fix this is just strike the second sentence. The newsletter reference to be made.
I'm talking about like the
Right, you could strike the second sentence in number 4, and then that would clean up the policy for promoting a business, if you wanted to do that. I'm trying to just read through it all. I was trying to find that thing from the press so I could read it out loud.
Okay. Councilor Bradshaw.
Along that lines, did the publisher change recently? Because this is quite old and it says the publisher prohibits promotion of a recommendation or a specific business. So is that still the case? Are we allowed to do this? Obviously, they printed it, so they didn't prohibit it unless they just didn't catch it. But, I mean, I agree. We can strike that from the content policy as long as the publisher's okay with it, in my mind, because...
Yeah, the publisher changed, and so did the person that I have putting it together. Everything just changed.
So that's what I guess my concern is. It says the publisher prohibits promotion of or a recommendation, which kind of makes sense in a sense, because if they're going to use it for advertising and then Leon Valley's going to come in and say, but this one's our favorite, then it kind of causes a conflict from that sense.
Right.
So I understand the reason for it, but if we want to do like a business of the month or something, I don't know if that's an issue either. It just depends on what the publisher agrees to.
And actually, at the publisher that we have now, they don't care. Whatever we put it, because we're paying for the newsletter now. There's no advertisements in it, so it's really irrelevant. This is old.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Hody.
Yes, ma'am, I have a comment on this and then something else.
I do too.
Later, maybe, or right afterwards. So, yeah, I agree, we need to clean this up by striking the second sentence or whatever we decide to do. And I guess there's a fine line of what promotion is. I don't consider the NAPHIDE piece being, where's it going? Promotion or, okay, now it's smaller.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was trying to get it all in there. I don't know which piece you were talking about.
Number 4.
Number 4.
Thanks. For us over 50. Promotion or recommendation. The recommendation is the second one. We need to fix it up however we need to, but I didn't see that as a promotion or a recommendation, and yet I understand what Mr. Yarnell was saying as well, so it's kind of my bit.
Thank you. I want to say again regarding the editorial, I think, what's the very last number, Crystal? The numbers I relied on when that editorial was sent to me, I was confused because I'd never seen that before either, was 6 and 11 to put the editorial again. And then, like I said, I wanted to make sure that there was permission. Had the editorial contained anything negative about any specific counselors, or had the editorial contained anything about, vote for this or don't vote for that or whatever, it was simply an editorial about process. And so all I knew at that point to do was to make sure that I had obtained proper permission. First time I'd seen this, anything like this. But I will make it really clear what you see from the mayor to the council members to the staff is always factually corrected. There's a lot of times there are factual errors that have to be corrected. There's misunderstandings from the meetings, or budget numbers aren't audited, or they're not right. And so I send it out to the directors, and we fact checked and correct the articles that are submitted.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Bradshaw.
I got a couple other things with this content policy on Section 3, Crystal. The last sentence of Section 3 says expressed or implied support or opposition to candidates or measures shall be prohibited. And yet, these articles on page 8 and 9 of Lions Roar are blatant opposition to the recall effort. How did we let that go through and decide not to follow the policy?
So editorial contribution is allowed, and I don't think that it was blatant. I think what it was is stating that that if the voters don't like what's happening, they should vote.
The last line says, the last line of it says, there is no need for a recall in Leon Valley.
That's correct. Submitted by an impartial board from the San Antonio Express News.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay.
No comment, please.
So, and then Ms. Charles' article has all kinds of things in it, and you said that you decide what's factual.
I actually had somebody sit down with me and look at and Councilor Charles' article to see what was factually incorrect, and it was actually corrected.
So I believe there's some parts of it, just when I read it, at the top of the second column, it says, there have been numerous negative, less than factual messages placed on a website, mailed and spoken at meetings regarding this issue. The messages contain information which serve to deceive and mislead the general public and citizens of the city. I think that the recall committee would have an issue with that and might say that that is not factual. So I guess I want to know who is the final say and who decides what the facts are.
So if you look at number 11, the final say is the city manager for article contributions. And just so you know, I also ran this by the 2 articles by the 2 city attorneys.
Okay, so
Actually, I thoroughly ran it by one.
I
and then
disagree
ran it
with
by
what
another.
this in here. I disagree with that this is factual. But so are you are the minister of truth of the city now. Is that correct?
You are the policymaker. You can change this policy.
And this isn't a policy. This is just I guess it is a
This
policy.
is a
but it's
policy that was
Resolution.
created by the council.
It's not an ordinance.
And it's
Yeah.
still a policy.
Put this
Yeah.
on a future agenda.
Well, we
actually
have
action.
we have action
Yeah.
tonight. I'm sorry, we've already, remember, we're going citizens first and then council, so we're
There's-
already at the council.
There are
so I can't
citizens to
go
be
back.
heard at the end, though.
There's citizens to be heard at the end, that's right. But, so, there's action tonight, or we can put it on for another meeting. It's up to the council, whatever your pleasure is on this policy and content.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we add this to the next council meeting to review the entire Lions Roar content policy and procedures.
All right. Is there a second? Okay. Okay. It dies for a lack of a second, but we'll hear from Mr. Hody.
So, being the newbie up here, can this not, we need to discuss this further, there's no doubt about it, I agree with Councilor Bradshaw. Is there any reason that why can't it just be put on there? I know you can do it, the
Yeah,
city
I can do
manager
it,
can,
and
that's what I was assuming we were going towards.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
Okay.
That's my.
All right. Rather than seconding his motion, you'd rather just to see it.
I
Okay,
guess
that's
so,
fine.
because I want to
Either-
make sure that it comes
Okay.
from either the mayor or the
Sure.
city manager.
Okay.
About exactly what we're going to discuss during that.
Okay.
And I
Is there-
still have something else that I want to bring
Okay,
up.
go ahead. Do you have, is there anything else that you want besides this existing policy and content? Is there anything else you want added to this that we could
Yes,
discuss?
there is, as a matter of
All right.
fact, ma'am. I want to add to it, I recommend that, and this is, again, it's a fine line, I'm not exactly sure. Gosh knows I don't want any more contention in this city. I'm trying to do everything I can to avoid it, but then at the same time, cross the bridges when we need to. I would like to see in the Lions Roar a place, I don't know if it's a half a page, I don't know what it would take. It's something we need to hash out. I don't think it's going to be as bad as the animal
ordinance.
Ordinance, but I think we can figure it out. I would like to see something in there where the citizens can submit something, preferably on the positive side, about living in Leon Valley. I know there's a lot of people that, I think everyone likes living in Leon Valley. It's just not everyone likes everything about Leon Valley, I guess. But I don't want to see, and maybe this is my editorial, I don't want to see negative information coming from the citizens, but I do want them to be able to submit something. If they want to submit something about how long they've lived here and what's great about it, what they love, the types of birds they saw in the natural area, a poem that they wrote relating to Leon Valley, a child could submit something. I don't know how big the Lions Roar can get, and I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but I really would like to see it expanded so that others, namely the citizens who we're here for, can submit reasonable articles. I don't think that the Lions Roar I don't know. We need to talk about it
Yeah,
some more, though.
'cause
I'm sorry, Mr. Bradshaw, but I didn't second it, but I just,
Well, we
I'm
can put
pretty
it on
sure
for
that the mayor or
I'm
the
just
city
wondering
manager.
how, what if you get like 50 articles or 50, you know what I'm saying? How do you?
No, that-
we
Very
have to have a
expensive.
process of.
No,
of,
that is
how
correct.
do
You know,
we-
maybe
yeah.
I'll have to get my
So-
magnifying glass
But
out,
anyway,
but
it's,
maybe
it's,
we can
it's a great
make it a
idea,
little bit
and
smaller.
I appreciate you
Maybe we
thinking
can-
outside the box.
Maybe we can add a page,
Mhm.
something. There's
sure.
been a couple of them that have come out over the last bi-monthly, whatever the word is, that have pictures of birds in it, which is
Mhm.
fantastic. I
Mhm.
love that. But there was a lot of space where something could have been written in there.
Mhm.
So I don't know if there's certain months. I think during the elections months, anybody that's, is this correct? Anybody that's on the ballot can't put anything in there, period. Is that right?
No.
No, that's
This
not
is,
correct.
this is the policy right here.
Okay. I just seem to recall in the past that,
It had been years back, but
well, we
it had been
definitely need to work
changed.
on it then, but I do want citizen input
Mhm.
as far as articles.
Okay.
And also, the other thing that's happening is that we're getting more. We got 3, and I think Counselor Hody, yours was fine. Yours will be submitted just as it is. Mr. Bradshaw's will be amended. And I think Counselor Alcacer's will be amended if I remember correctly. But we're having counselors submit articles now as well, which add extra pages and extra cost. And so I love the idea of having citizens in there, but we'll just need to make sure that we budget for that, and because it is extra cost.
Okay, so we'll put that on the next agenda. All right. Then moving, if there's no other questions or comments from the counselors on this agenda item, then we will move to agenda item number 9, citizens to be heard. Is there anyone in our chambers that would like to address the council at this time? Please come forward. 8:23 p.m.
I just wanted to, Eric Mata, Kennerfield, just wanted to continue on from where I left off, well, with the idea. Mrs. Kensler asked or referred to the fact that she had asked the advice of the 2 city attorneys, and we have one here. So I wanted to find out if that was the case and if he wanted to chime in on his opinion in regards to the Lions Roar and this issue that we've spent a good deal of time on here.
I don't believe it's appropriate in citizens to be heard for your city attorney to opine.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Benny Martinez, Seneca. Councilor Rodriguez made a statement. When I was on city council, I was always an advocate to be business friendly. In fact, that's one of the reasons I got kicked off of city council, for advocating for businesses and residents. My question is to you city council members, why aren't you advocating and helping businesses? I don't hear one of you guys trying to go up and advocate for businesses. Isn't that your job? I just received a letter from Anna Sandoval asking for donations, and in her letter, it states that her and her staff have helped so many residents and so many businesses, and it's very flowering of all the contributions that she has done to help the people in her district. Why don't you guys do that? And why was I kicked off council for doing that?
Thank you. All right. Good evening and welcome.
Robin Johnson, Forest Oaks, Canterfield. In relation to the Lions Roar, who has the final say? Should not be a single person. I have been in journalism in high school and in college. I'm not a professional, but everything went through a committee, vetted by a committee before it was put into any newsletter at the college level or the high school level. Why can't we have a committee? We have a committee for just about everything else. Why can't we have a committee who works with the city manager to go through these articles so you get both sides? I will be completely honest. I was very offended by those 2 articles. I was very angry because of the bias I read into them. Now, that is my opinion that I read that bias there. But it should not have been in a newsletter published with my tax money, and I would have liked to have had a say.
All right. All right. Anyone else? Mr. Blackmore.
My name is Blackmore. I'm a taxpayer in Leon Valley. I heard an ex-council member talking about being business friendly. Yeah, business friendly for his relative friends, trying to get zoning codes changed. I just want to say, Mayor, all this could have ended a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I've known you a long time. I've voted for you, just like I have the ex-mayor and 2 ex-council members. You and your team, it's time for you to go. Either you retire or you resign.
Thank you, Mr.
Can't take any
Thank
more
you.
of you
Thank you, Mr.
anymore.
Bradshaw. I mean, Mr. Blackmore.
Yeah.
I don't
Take
believe
him
we're
with
spo-
you.
Yeah, you know, I don't think we're supposed to go to the podium and put down people, and I really don't appreciate that.
Leslie Bacon, Forest Oaks, Canterfield. I don't understand why other people are being censored here in what they're speaking, but there are certain peoples that supports council members here that are allowed to say and call people names and disrespect council members and the mayor, our duly elected representatives here. The city manager should stand up and make sure that all people are treated equal here in this meeting. We are citizens and we deserve that. Shame on you. Shame on you, Ms. Kinsler.
Let's not put people down, please. Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, Mayor.
Oh.
I just have a point of clarification. The presiding officer for this meeting is the mayor. She's the one that calls for order.
She's being disrespected.
Okay, oh, excuse me, Ms. Bacon, we can't have the outburst in the, just if you'll please keep your comments to yourself. I appreciate that. But, yes.
Josh Stevens, Forest Oaks. So that was actually really interesting, the whole interaction that just occurred. But that puts the mayor in a very difficult position. I mean, if you're able to empathize at all, obviously when you're being have comments spewing at you like that, it's a difficult thing for her to react to because she can't really shut down a person, or can she? Anyway, I just want to remind all of the elected members that that the people that are out here and giving critique and criticism and saying comments like though you may not like some of the things we say or the ideas we propose or the questions we ask, we are your constituents still. And I would hope that as elected officials that you just remember that, and remember that, some city staff isn't an elected official, but you are, and you're elected by the people, for the people. You should be representing them. So I just hope that things can kind of shift to where we have elected officials that actually are for the people in the community instead of for other reasons.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Well, this is pretty early for us. 8:30. So if there's no opposition or if y'all want to stay, fine. But we will move to adjourn without objection at 8:30 on January the 7th. And the next meeting is January